Okay, so we were hoping Zach would be out before the end of the year, but it seems he's still being held. If you see him during the summer, hopefully he'll be out then. You can ask him what he got put in for, but he may not be allowed to talk about it. So let's go ahead. Let's see. First of all, let's make sure I got sound. It's recording, and I got sound. Good. Okay, good. So let's minimize that. There we go. And move you out of the way. You'll move on your own. Okay, so go ahead and open up the three files I gave you, flappy.html, gfg.js, and style.css. They should all be in the same folder. So in this case, they're all in the Flappy folder. So if I look in my JS, I got a Flappy folder, and they all live in the same folder. They have to live in the same folder so they can reference each other. So the game is pretty rudimentary at this point. It can be fixed up if you want to play with it. But let's just look at the game itself. So if I go to my browser and I open the game, Control O, and let's go to Flappy and flappy.html. Okay, it's going to say enter to start. Now it doesn't tell you space bar flies, and you see this little thing right here, bird img in the center. There's supposed to be an image there. Well, we're going to look into how to load that image in and what size it needs to be. So I did very little work on this because I wanted to explore it with you guys to show you how you can look at other people's code. So, but if I hit enter and then I start using space, that birding will fly. Now the birding is bigger than what it looks like here. So keep it near the center and it'll score as I make it through the pipes until I hit a pipe or what it thinks that I hit a pipe. So it can be very hard because the image it's looking for is bigger than what's really there. Now it says enter to restart. I've found, oh no, maybe it does work. I was having problems getting it to restart. Yeah, mine was having that. All of a sudden mine's not for some reason. Okay, there. Like there, as it really hit touching, you know, so it might have some issues, but I wanted you to get an idea what it looked like. So this is super rudimentary, but the nice thing about this code is you can play with it, you can add stuff to it, you can have some fun with it. So yeah. So let's start by going to flappy.html. This is the smallest of the files. Like I said, all JavaScript on the web has to live in HTML. But what's nice is it doesn't really live in a very big area here. So we got our body tag, which is everything that's on the page. Above that, we have a div tag with a background color. And then we've got an image. Here's our image. SRC, it's looking for logo.png for our bird, is what it's looking for. And so because it couldn't show it because it doesn't exist in our folder, it was showing us bird-img. Now this doesn't tell us how big it is. I'm going to look in the JavaScript and see if we can get an idea how big the image should be. But if we can get, I could create a logo.png relatively easy, the size we want, and we could replace that. So, but let's see if we get that. So, should be. There should be a flappy.html file in the.
There's 3 in my folder, and there's Flappy, there's GFG.
Right, it's Flappy. Maybe you're just not showing the.
Pretty sure the Flappy is JS.
Let's see.
Yeah, GFG is the JS.
Yeah, GFG is the JavaScript.
Yep.
But go to your My Computer. So we're in Flappy. So here's Flappy. That's the HTML file that we're running. So that needs to be in there too. There you go. Cool. Okay, so like I said, we got our image, and then we got a div message. Press this enter to start, and then our score, title and val, and then we've got just a script call for our script. We also have a style sheet call up here. This is another way to call a style sheet with an href link style. So it calls our style sheet. Let's go look at our style sheet first because we're really not going to do much with that. So if we go to our style sheet, we got asterisks. That means everything. Everything has a margin of 0, padding of 0, and box sizing border box. That's a little beyond the scope of this class, but you can get there. Height 100 VH and 100 VW. I'm not sure what VH and VW are. View, it probably has to do with view height and view width, so it's probably 100% of what your computer sees is the view height of your, so it will resize. What that does is it means it'll resize with your here, actually this is outside of there. It'll resize with this. So if I make this smaller, there we go. And I shift refresh. Then I hit enter. And then everything's smaller. It matches. So. Yeah, anyway, that's because we can't tell where the image really should be. So. I don't want it that big. I want it. Come on, grab this big. There we go. Okay, so background, same thing. Height, background color. I guess sky blue is a text you can put in for background. Oh, here's what I'm looking for. Okay, bird. Class of bird. Now there they have a height of 100 pixels and a width of 160 pixels. Position fixed means that it will be in a set point related to everything else. So normally when we throw things up in HTML, it does the one, it does the next, it does the next. If we use special positioning, we can have things go over other things. What they're doing with fixed positions is allowing the bird to go over the background. Same with the pipe sprite. Pipe sprite has a fixed position. The bird's over the background. Again, they're using a percentage of the size of the view to set its height, its top, its width, things like that. Message, just font stuff for the message up there. Score, same thing. It's a fixed position, so it can go over. Score value, color gold. Okay, so not much in the CSS. So if we look at Flappy Bird, what's interesting here is what don't you see to run your JavaScript? You don't see an on click anywhere to call a function. So if we go to our JavaScript, our gfg.js, you'll notice that we got a bunch of variables we're setting right off the bat. But then it starts doing stuff without a function. So that just means as soon as it runs, it's gonna call this function, it's gonna start running this stuff. That's why in the HTML, they put the script call at the very end. They put it here because they want to make sure all this stuff loads first before it tries to run that JavaScript. Otherwise, you'll get errors. So here they've got, and they work. So here's something that are kind of fun. They use this a lot in JavaScript. We haven't touched on it. It's beyond the scope of what we've known so far. Add event listener. So an event listener is, it's what it sounds like. It listens. It starts running and it listens for an event to happen. Here we're looking for a key down, so we're pressing a key down, and this E here stands for enter. So it's going to look for an enter key. Start the game if the enter key is pressed. If E key, so it's going to take the key down and it's going to apply it to E, this parameter E. So it's going to say, what's the key that was pressed on this E? If it's enter and the game state is play, there's a global variable up here, I'm sure, set for game state. There it is. Our game state is start. Okay. Okay, then it's going to query selector all. So what it's doing is it's running queries against what's out there because it's going to create objects. You'll notice this is called pipe sprite. Anyone hear the word sprite before? Anyone take a Scratch class I had? In there, sprites. Sprites are objects. So sprite is considered an object on a web page that you can interact with. It's generally a graphical object. So a sprite. So what this code's going to do is it's going to set a sprite up for every pipe. These are called pipe sprites. So, and what they're going to do is if it says enter and it says play, well, ours says start to begin with. If it says play, it's going to reset everything. So it's going to remove each one of these pipe sprites. It's going to say, oh, for each E. Now this little arrow thing is a little different. It's kind of a fancy way of doing if or with. So it's going to start removing everything. Then it's going to set the top of the bird to 40 times the vertical height. It's going to set the game state to play, meaning, hey, we started playing. It's going to get rid of our message that says head enter, enter to start. It's going to set our score title to score and our score value to 0. And then it's going to call a function called play. Now here's something kind of interesting. Here's a function called play. What do you notice that's weird about this function? There's no closing curly bracket, right? Here's another function called move. They're the same function. So both of these functions, if we scroll down, will end with this single curly bracket, and they will both call this. Now, why he decided to have a play function and a move function and not just call the same function twice may just be ease of looking at the code. But you could go and get rid of move, and anywhere it said move function, change it to play, this would work the same, and you could get rid of that line. So that doesn't matter. Okay. So now it says game state. If it's play, return. So this means hop out of the function, you're done. Poop. If the game state isn't play, so our other game state is start. So it's saying if I click play and the game state is not equal to play, if not equal to play, then return. Otherwise, do all this stuff. So if it's something else, it'll say, nope, I'm not going to do anything, and it's going to kick itself out. Okay, so let pipe sprite equal document query selector pipe sprite. So it's creating a pipe sprite for each element. Now there's we're going to have an array of elements or something in here that we're going to work with. So we're just kind of running through. Don't worry if you don't get half this stuff, but I kind of want to walk through it just to see what's going on. Pipe sprite props. Props probably stands for properties. Get bounding client rectangle. So it's going to get the rectangle, the area that this sprite inhabits. And it's going to go bird props. It's going to get the bounding client rectangle of the bird. So it's going to get the client or the rectangle of the pipe, the rectangle of the bird. Then I'm guessing it's going to compare them, and if there's any overlap, then that's when things are going to happen. Okay, if pipe sprites dot right equals 0, element dot remove. So if its right side property is set to 0, it must mean that it's gone all the way to the right. You're going to remove it. It's gone. Prop left. Sprite props left plus sprite props width. And, okay, so it's going to do a bunch of things. If the left side of the bird and the left side of the, or if the left side of the bird is less than the left side of the pipe, so if its left side is less, that means it's in or where it can touch the pipe. If the bird's width is greater than the left. Okay, there's a bunch of things here that's going to compare. It's going to say, have we collided? And you can walk through these. You got your greater thans, your less than, your pluses, your adding. Okay, change game stat and end the game. So that means, hey, if all this is true, a collision occurred, we're going to end. We're going to put our message back, press enter to restart. We're going to put our message left side equal to 28% of the width of the thing. If no collision, then else increase the score if the player successfully dodged. So this tells us we've come up to a pipe or just passed a pipe, and if there is no collision, then it says, hey, you made it. So we're going to increase the score by 1. So score value equals plus score value inner HTML plus 1. So it's going to grab that and add 1 to it. Then we got our move speed. Okay. Request animation frame move. This calls a function that I believe is not in here. Let me see. Yep. So request animation move. If you want to know more about this function, how would you find out about that function? This function actually is part of JavaScript. It's written into the code. So it means we don't have to define it, we just have to use it. So say, what does the request animation frame do? Function. So you type in JavaScript request animation frame, and it will tell you what parameter has to be made. I'm guessing it's a pixel parameter, and then it will work and it will move. It won't just jump though, it'll move. It'll do like a slide. So, okay. Let bird dy equals 0. I'm not sure. Okay. So here's apply gravity. So we have gravity. If the game's not equal to play, return. So if it's not in play state, return. Forget about gravity. Otherwise, oh, bird dy, that's its y. It's y, where it sits on the y-axis, equals bird dy plus gravity. So it's going to add gravity to that. That's going to try to pull it down. It's going to listen for that event again, that key press, key down on E. If E is, we can use our arrow up key here, or our space key. You notice there's a space in here. We can use our arrow up key or a space. If that's true, it will subtract 7.6 from the bird, or from the Y. So if you want to make it jump higher, what would you do? Or bounce higher, flap higher? I don't know. No, I believe it's probably backwards right now. I would assume negative means they're going negative Y. They're flipping in there somewhere. They're probably subtracting whatever number this is from Y. And if you subtract a negative, you add and you'll increase your Y and go up. So I'm guessing make this a larger negative. We'll make it go higher. If I put this to -10, it would flap higher. If I put it to -2, it would flap just a little bit. So then it does collision with the top of the window or the bottom. So same thing. It's going to use the background top and the bottom state to see if something hit, and then it's going to end the game. Press enter to restart. Okay. And that all does this request animation frame, apply gravity. So it's passing apply gravity, which is, here's apply gravity. Where's our apply gravity? How can you find something if you can't find it? Highlight it, Control F. Find next. Now, if you highlight it, actually, even if we don't Control F, let's just highlight it. Everywhere else should also be highlighted. So there's our function, apply gravity. So it's saying it's passing a function request on this request animation frame. So it's, on its move, it's going to apply gravity. Pipe separation 0. Okay, constant value for the gap between two pipes. So the current gap is 35. So that's probably 35 pixels or 35 of something. So if you want to increase the pipe separation, then you change that number. So here it goes through as you play it, it creates two sets of pipes. If pipe separation is greater than 115, then it sets the pipe separation equal to 0. So if you can't get it too high, then it does random position of pipes. So here you've seen this before, math.floor, math.random, right here. So how can we tell what this does? If we remember math.random, you can look that up. You'll find it gives you a number between 0 and 0.999999, I think 6 nines. So effectively 0 and 1. So it's going to take and multiply that by 43. So it's giving it a number between 0 and 43 now. Then it's going to take the floor of that. So it's going to, you will never get to 43. You'll get to 42 point something. So it'll all take the floor. It'll drop all the decimal places. So you get from 0 to 42, and it's going to add 8 to that. So you're going to get from 8 to 50 is what your position, your pipe sprite position is going to be. And then using that, it will, here's our pipe position. It will set an upper and a lower pipe working its way through. Append the created pipe to the element in the DOM. DOM, I haven't used that word before. Anyone know what DOM means? It means document object model. And basically it's your web page. Here's our document. Here's our object, our body. So the DOM is the website itself. Everything within the web page itself, not including the top footers or headers or footers, anything like that. So this is our DOM right here. Okay, so let's start. Say we wanted to, here, let me, how's that look? Yeah, okay. Let's start with our bird. Let's get a bird. So if we go back to our Flappy, it's looking for logo.png. And if we went to our style, our .bird was 100 tall by 160 wide. What's that?
It really should be more like 80 and 130 respectively.
Oh.
Otherwise, it's determined it's impossible with 1 and 160.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, but 80 and 130 is.
Okay.
You have to go like really high up with 100 and 160.
Well, 80, it's pretty accurate, the 80. I mean, I've only ever gotten to 5.
So if we drop it to 80 and 130, okay. So I'm just going to go into GIMP or something. You can go find an image. You want to find a PNG. I'm going to open up GIMP quick and just make myself a quick PNG. We can pass it around if you want. But close. Let's do file, new. I'm going to make my width 130 and my height 80. And sorry, that's off your screen. Okay, there, I'm going to make that a little smaller so that.
There's a piece of the dry iced tennis ball on my computer.
Oh, the racket? Yeah.
The racquetball that you dry iced.
Liquid nitrogen. Oops, wrong. Okay, I'm going to make it bigger so we can see it. So I'm going to show you my incredible drawing skills. We're going to take our, oh, this isn't a great thing to draw in. I forgot about this. Forget that one. I'm going to open Adobe Illustrator. That one's an easy one to work with. Just take a second. Take some water. Okay, let's create a new object. Let's make it, we want pixels, not points. Gonna make it a width of 120 or 130.
Is that GIMP?
No, this is Adobe Illustrator. I can draw easier with Adobe Illustrator. GIMP is a an image manipulation software, so it's good to work with one that you created already. And a PNG is actually considered a vector graphic, so it's good to do that. And plus, I can do a what do you call it? Transparent background with a PNG, so that the background color shows through. Okay, so there's my guy. So let's do this. Let's create a bird. Let's go. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so there's my bird. Let's fill it.
I think we should change it to 75 pixels.
75.
Can't get past height of 80.
Okay, we'll change that. Okay, so here's my bird. Let's draw a wing on it quick. There we go. Let's add a there we go.
Height worked best.
75 and sorry, 75 for the height and 130 for the width.
Okay, there's the jet engine under its wing. And it's angry Flappy Birds. There we go. Okay, I'm going to make this here. Let's adjust my art here. I'm gonna make it a little small. Let's see. Let's go. Oops. Okay. Let's add object. This is going to be object. What am I looking for? I want to. Oh, artboards. That's right. Fit to selected art. There we go. We got a bird. Let's go ahead and export it. Export, save for web. We're going to make it a PNG. We're going to set it to transparent. Maybe I got to do that first. Sorry. Cancel. Let's do file. Got to remember document setup. Here, let's do this. I don't remember, so we'll just add a layer and move it. Add a layer. Nope, that's not right. Delete that layer. How do I make a layer transparent? I think I just have to do it when I export it. Export, save for web. So mine's very skinny, so it might make it nice and easy. We'll see. We're going to go back to PNG. Transparency is on. Good. I got it. Save. I'm going to go to my Flappy, which is in my desktop. And I'm going to save it as logo.png. Whoops. There we go. So now if I go back to my Flappy Bird, shift refresh, I got a bird. Oh, it made it fat because it made it fit. So if I hit enter, just a second, it's not working. Shift refresh, enter. I killed it. Well, we'll have to see. You got to play with it a little bit. But we've got some. Why won't that work, I wonder? Maybe there's something goofy I'm missing. Oh, let's see if we can tell why it's not working. Inspect. Console. Okay, it doesn't like my encoding, but it doesn't matter there, so that's fine. I'm not getting a JavaScript error. Whoops. Control O. Flappy. So if I hit enter, there we go. It was just. See, the jet engines really help. Oh, so maybe it does recognize. Oh, okay. So I'm going to pop Flappy, my logo.php onto here. And we can pass that around if you want, unless you've got your own already. Do you need it? And while that's being passed around, I'm going to shut off Zach for a second, and I'm going to get some water. Okay, so everyone's got my little fat bird on there right now. Like I said, if you want to make it smaller, then I got to make it the right size. I just constrained everything to the size of the bird, so the width was correct, but the height was off. So then you get pixelation. But
Within a rectangle, so like even though the tail doesn't necessarily hit.
right, if anything in that rectangle hits. So you can see where some games, there's special functions. They're called what are they called when they're part of the JavaScript itself? Well, JavaScript has its own set of functions that can do things, so you can find out more about those as you delve more into JavaScript as well. A lot of tools out there. You can go as far as getting what they call libraries of other code that people have used, and you can use their functions for yourself as well. And you can do a lot, but one thing this is missing other than decent graphics and a good looking bird is sound. You can add sound to these things too. So sound really adds a lot to a web game as well. So so here's something you can play with. You can break it. If you're gonna really mess with it, and you're worried about not being able to go back, what should you do before you start messing with it? Save a copy somewhere, so you can always go back and grab your copy. So then you can mess with it. Now you may not care, but yeah, it's kind of fun, something to mess with. So that being said, you are done with the class. Your report cards are in your mailboxes. Zach, I'll send you a copy of yours when I send it off. Yeah. If you want to learn more, what's some of the things you should pursue if you want to delve into this more deeply? CSS and HTML. No, learn HTML. It's easy. You should know it if you're going to do anything on the web. CSS, know CSS enough to know how to use it, and then you can always look up stuff. Oh, how do I do this? What do I do for that? Like there was CSS in here that I had not seen before. This VH and VW. I'm thinking they're talking about the VH height, the video width. So it's a way to set things to a percentage of the overall size of the page that you're using. So yeah, but I knew enough to say, oh, height, that's that, and then that was different. So know enough CSS to at least be able to look up stuff and find stuff you want to be able to change. And then JavaScript tutorials online. If you really want to get to know JavaScript well, what I'm teaching here is vanilla client-side JavaScript. That means all the JavaScript lives on the page. It's run there. There are no additions like libraries, Bootstrap, anything like that is added to it. It's just all by itself. When you get good at JavaScript, you'll have a set of libraries that they'll often use for things like we saw a built-in library here with our call to request animation frame. That's a built-in library. You can bring in libraries other people have built to do things that you want already, and bring those in, so you don't have to recreate the wheel every time you do it. But then there's also what's called client-side JavaScript. Client-side JavaScript works on the server and is what would then build the pages to begin with. So client-side JavaScript is nice because you access databases. You can use databases to pull stuff and store stuff in, things like that. You can do a little bit of that on the client side, or on server side is where you can access the databases. You can do a little bit on client side, but it's also good for security. People can't just go in and find out how you're running your page because the JavaScript creates the page, but you never see the JavaScript that created the page. So, but a lot you can do there as well. You can learn enough through tutorials, books online to actually get a job doing this. But if you want to be a high-end coder, then you probably have to do some schooling. Now, it used to be if you wanted to be a computer programmer, you had to go to college. That's not true anymore. Now you can go to a trade school. You can go to a boot camp, they call them sometimes. And in the time of 6 months to a year and a half, you can become a rather skilled developer. So they usually cost a bit of money, but developers make a lot of money, so usually it recoups the cost a lot faster in college. But hopefully that gives you enough that if you want to pursue it, you can become good at it. I've been doing it forever, but I never really pursued it that hard, so I'm not an expert in it by any means. But any questions? No? Then we are done forever. And have fun. So hopefully we'll all see Zach again one day, and he won't be wearing prison orange. So